How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No, you're going to answer the question the way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people.
Congressional chaos, with Attorney General Pam Bondi testifying on Capitol Hill about the Jeffrey Epstein saga, and with the redactions and the unredactions from these past few days, we got to ask, is the DOJ, the Department of Justice, hiding something regarding Epstein? Let's discuss. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Is the DOJ hiding something about Jeffrey Epstein? It's a fair question. It's a fair question I can ask. I can't tell you definitively, but it's a fair question to ask because what did we see the past few days? What was on display the past few days, particularly yesterday? Optics-wise, it doesn't look right. See, here's the thing, and I did a whole sidebar on this. According to the newly released Epstein files, pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, where the DOJ had to release all of the Epstein files in their possession, there are internal memos and case summaries with the feds where they suggest there is an evidence that Epstein ran a sex trafficking network of girls to high-profile, powerful men. I'll give you an example. There was an email to then Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, March 20th, 2025. The case agents and AUSAs, Assistant United States Attorneys, these are the prosecutors, ensured that all videos and images from the case file and from Epstein's residences and devices were reviewed for evidence of a crime. Those reviews revealed no evidence from any of the searches we conducted or any of the files we reviewed that any videos or other images exist of any victims in this case being sexually abused. Nor did those reviews reveal any evidence that anyone other than Epstein and Maxwell participated in the sexual abuse of victims in this case. This is referring to Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of her own sex trafficking charges and sentenced to 20 years in prison. We are aware of the theory circulated in the media and online that Epstein video recorded the abuse of his victims, including by other men, but we have found no evidence to support that theory. Indeed, had we found such videos, we certainly would have used them as evidence in the criminal cases we investigated and prosecuted and would have pursued any leads they generated. We did not, however, locate any such videos. And then you have this other message that says the FBI's Violent Crime Section, so the Crimes Against Children and Human Trafficking Unit, the CACHTU, spoke to the case agent and confirmed no client list existed, meaning that Jeffrey Epstein had this list of all the people that he trafficked these girls to, right? This incriminating, maybe blackmail list of celebrities and politicians and high-profile people. Now, why am I saying that? It may be hard for people to believe this. Totally fair that Epstein didn't traffic girls to other people. I mean, it just came out that Epstein ordered one of his aides to get secret cameras at his Palm Beach, Florida home in a 2014 email writing, "Let's get 3 motion-detected hidden cameras that record." So people might not accept this. Totally fair. But just putting that to the side, maybe this is the case. Maybe there isn't a client list. Maybe there isn't definitive proof of other men abusing girls. Look, I'm an attorney. I get that one statement, one narrative is not enough. Suggestion is not enough. You need more evidence to make a criminal case to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that someone committed a crime. Maybe a mere association with Epstein, maybe just weird emails or communications. Maybe it's not enough to prosecute. Okay, I get it, and I can understand that. The problem is, to me, there is an argument that what the Department of Justice has been doing and how they have been redacting, unredacting materials is just adding fuel to the fire that there is a cover-up. And yes, I'm going to get into what Pam Bondi testified to yesterday in what was just an absolute throwdown on Capitol Hill. But first, as I mentioned, lawmakers are now able to review unredacted Epstein files at the DOJ during the week, Monday through Friday. And what does Representative Ro Khanna do? He goes to the House floor the other day and reveals the names of 6 men that had been blacked out.
In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massey and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake, and now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikoladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI. Now, my question is, why did it take Thomas Massie and me going to the Justice Department to get these 6 men's identities to become public?
Why were they redacted? I don't know. It's unclear, especially since Les Wexner, the guy behind Victoria's Secret, was already a known Epstein associate. Epstein had allegedly been, managing his finances. And even though he has denied allegations of wrongdoing, why was his name redacted with these other people? All right, before we go any further, I got to give a shout out to our partner, CyberGhost VPN. Look, have you ever kind of hesitated to connect to public Wi-Fi like in a restaurant, airport, school, because you're afraid someone might be stealing your information? Totally valid. The truth is, eyes are watching you every time you go online. The good news is, there's a solution, CyberGhost VPN. You select one of their hundreds of locations before you browse, and they'll encrypt everything through their secure server. So this way, no one can track your online activity. It works on up to 7 devices at once, so you can share with family and friends. And with just a couple clicks, CyberGhost unlocks exclusive geo-restricted content from over 40 major streamers like Netflix and Prime. And with over 38 million users worldwide and a nearly perfect rating on Trustpilot, CyberGhost is one of the most recommended VPNs out there. And look, if you're still not sure, there's a 45-day money-back guarantee, 84% discount plus 4 months free with the link in my description. So that's just $2.03 a month to protect your privacy and enjoy unlimited content. Don't wait. Click the link in the description. Start browsing safely with CyberGhost VPN. Stay private, stay secure, unlock global content. Get CyberGhost VPN now with 84% off plus 4 months free, risk-free with a 45-day money-back guarantee. Just click the link in the description and start protecting your digital life today. Here's the thing. The DOJ was only supposed to redact and withhold information on a very limited basis under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the law. It says the Attorney General may withhold or redact the segregable portions of records that contain personally identifiable information of victims, depict or contain child sexual abuse materials, would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, provided that such withholding is narrowly tailored and temporary, depict or contain images of death, physical abuse, or injury of any person, or contain information specifically authorized under criteria established by an executive order to be kept in secret in the interest of national defense or foreign policy. Mere embarrassment of somebody, it's not enough. That's not enough to redact somebody's name. So why were certain individuals' names redacted? Why was certain information withheld, like these men's names? How thorough was the DOJ, the FBI, in preparing this material before it was released? Right? These are fair questions. Optically, there's a separate question between, hey, look, we went through everything. There was no one else to look at. There was no one else to prosecute. Okay, why does it look like a cover-up? When, as I said, maybe that's not even the case. And there are legitimate reasons to redact information or not charge someone. Okay, here's the problem. Attorney General Pam Bondi testified yesterday in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And by the way, this has been an overall bipartisan effort. You got both sides here who want to get more information on the Epstein saga and understand why no one else was prosecuted. So here's a good example, okay, because I'm going to play you clips of this. In the spirit of what I just said, listen to Republican Thomas Massie call out Pam Bondi over the redactions.
The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, Fully Redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files. But he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI. Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
co-conspirator.
and we invited you in.
Gentlemen.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
I mean, yeah, look, at the very least, the feds could have work product showing they were considering charges or that they were investigating someone, chose not to move forward for whatever reason. That's understandable, although it can be debated about why they didn't move forward. But prosecutors always have a number of reasons, for example, to not pursue a case against someone given the weight of the evidence. And yes, it's unusual that we're even seeing these internal memos and case summaries, the internal workings like this. But come on, this is an unusual case. But to redact it? Why was it initially redacted? To redact all this, does it fit into one of those categories I mentioned before? I don't know. Especially when I get to what they didn't react. That is going to get you angry. That is going to get your blood boiling. I'll get to that in a minute. But Bondi going up there and making it political and making statements that I will say I have never heard an attorney general say during a hearing on Capitol Hill before, it makes it look suspicious. The argument is people will look at this and say she's diverting attention, right? She's being defensive. She's being overly aggressive. Take a look.
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
My time.
I think it's very
Reclaiming my
interesting.
time.
You can
that
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about
but
they
reclaiming my
indicted.
time, Mr.
The
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted.
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The
Reclaiming
time
my
belongs
time
to the
and
gentleman
back
from
the
New
clock,
York.
please.
We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when you
Reclaiming
ask a
my-
question, the
The
witness
question
gets to
was-
answer. You may not like the answer, but she
Right.
gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like
Que-
the answer,
Reclaiming
Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming-
So he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
Answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way.
Reclaiming-
And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me
Yeah, oh, I
anything,
did tell you because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
And the question is, why is she doing this? I mean, she called Representative Jamie Raskin a washed-up lawyer. So why is she doing this? Why not just say, hey, listen, we looked at everything. I understand your concerns. There's nothing else here. She did it a little bit. But by diverting attention, bringing up other subjects, being defensive, this is what's going to just raise people's suspicions. Let me get back to this part, okay? This is Representative Jerry Nadler. He has just one question.
So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're gonna answer
theatrics
the
are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it. How
Chairman
many have you
Jordan, I'm
indicted?
not going to get in the gutter with these people. You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million. And Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Yes, look, all important things for the economy. But she's the Attorney General. Why is the Attorney General talking about that during the Epstein conversation, right? And arguably not directly answering the question. What about this, okay? You had Representative Ted Lieu on Prince Andrew, big figure in this case. Things go off the rails because it's about whether Prince Andrew, maybe I should say former Prince Andrew, should have been prosecuted.
I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry that we redacted the victim's
Because you were
face.
following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my
Did you?
time.
Never
I agree
mentioned
with
it.
you. I agree with you. During
Did you not hear
the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I
question.
answer your question about protecting
You
Prince
answered the
Andrew?
question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's the video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be released.
I got your answer. You said there's no
President
evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please
that
stop the
he
clock.
sign
Stop the clock.
the legislation.
This
This is
Time
ridiculous.
time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a
I
crime.
believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and the officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronize his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask a question.
He doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his
She
state.
can't just
Madam
ad
Attorney
lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a question.
Committee will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness will be more than happy to let the Attorney General.
Madam Attorney General, would you like to?
Gentleman from Alabama is recognized for 5 minutes.
Now, look, we did a whole episode on Sidebar about the Royals' connection to Epstein, including what's happened recently. It's up on Law&Crime's YouTube page if you want to check it out. But it's not clear why he wasn't prosecuted. And you heard the deflection a bit on the president, right? It's an interesting thing about the idea of the Trump cover-up, because one of the documents that was released at one point in this files release, and which we all saw, was a list compiled by the FBI of unverified tips that came in from the FBI's National Threat Operations Center. And apparently this was sent over the Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. So we all saw this. Now again, these were tips that apparently couldn't be corroborated. So you're even talking about secondhand information. But there were allegations that we all saw that Trump allegedly engaged in child abuse. Again, not substantiated, but it was in there, it was released. And to give you a better idea about that, we had Representative Henry Johnson from Georgia, who wanted clarification on how many employees were allegedly charged with scrubbing President Trump's name from the files.
General Bondi, it's been reported that there were at one point 1,000 personnel assigned to the task of identifying and scrubbing Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Were those reports accurate?
I believe his name has appeared countless times in the documents
how many
that have
people were
been released.
assigned?
If I could finish, I'm going to read you the stats.
No, I just simply asked whether or not it was true that it was 1,000 folks who were assigned that task. Were those reports accurate?
There are more than 500 attorneys and reviewers. I cannot give you an exact number.
And I wanted to ask you about that also, because this is a different question that you're getting to now. There were 500 DOJ lawyers and others assigned the task of redacting the appropriate information, including identities of the Epstein victim survivors from the Epstein files prior to their release. 500, is that correct?
If I could have finished my answer, there were more than 500 attorneys and reviewers who assisted with the. They asked a question and they don't want an answer.
That answers my question, ma'am, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
From multiple districts.
Would you agree?
This is ridiculous.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Georgia.
By the way, Representative Jasmine Crockett just dove into this more.
Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, "This is a good one." Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up.
One thing I got to mention is the idea of how thorough this investigation was at the federal level, why the redactions were made and not made, and whether the DOJ made an attempt to hear from the survivors. Because first, as to protecting the victims, the survivors, going back to Massey, Listen to this.
To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. And then you had Representative Pramila Jayapal of Washington, who questioned AG Bondi about not only the names being released, but something else coming out too. And at one point, she asks the survivors who were in that room to stand up and for Bondi to address them. And this is when things get pretty tense.
Along with numerous files that disclose not only the names, the emails, and the addresses of survivors, but also nude photographs and even the identities of Jane Does who had been protected for decades until your department released their names. Survivors are now telling us that their families are finding out for the first time that they were trafficked by Epstein. In their words, quote, "This release does not provide closure. It feels like a deliberate attempt to intimidate survivors, punish those who came forward, and reinforce the same culture of secrecy that allowed Epstein's crimes to continue for decades." To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before, Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi.
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness gets to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
that's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't like the answer. So,
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked
didn't she ask Merrick Garland this twice?
I'm reclaiming my time, and when I reclaim my time, it is
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady's reclaimed her time.
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
Now, AG Bondi did try to address that a bit when she was questioned by Representative Lou Correa.
And as I said before, to any victims, we ask them to come forward to our office, and we want to work with them. I have never not worked with a victim, and I believe I've actually spoken to several of the
Madam, if I can reclaim my time, I only have a minute.
Behind me.
If I can reclaim my time, I just think we start out by making sure those redactions are unredacted, those Epstein files, to make sure that the public, according to the law, following the law, that those names in those files are made public. We have to make sure we tell those predators there is no place for them to hide, and if they commit the crime, they're going to fry for it. It starts with showing us the names of the perpetrators in the Epstein files.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. So, if any man's name was redacted that should not have been, we will, of course, unredact it. If a victim's name was unredacted, please bring it to us and we will redact it. We were given 30 days to review and redact and unredact millions of pages of documents. our error rate is very low.
The
but there
victims
are
are
always
right behind you. We've got to convince them that we're doing a good job
everything we can to help the victims. We will do everything we can.
And look, giving her the benefit of the doubt, yeah, maybe that's the case. Maybe mistakes were made. Given the time frame to produce all this, sure. But you can see why people would look at this and say, what? Really? And when it comes to people possibly being indicted, she had made the claim that there are pending investigations at the Department of Justice. And like I said before, that could be one of the criteria to not produce material or redact material. You don't want to jeopardize an ongoing investigation. She didn't really provide a lot more details on that. It's unclear if she is referring to the work that's being done at the Southern District of New York, because Bondi was selected to oversee an investigation there. Jay Clayton may be being a part of that. I also have to mention this. You know what's complicating all this? Is that Congress didn't get the privilege log from the DOJ. They were required to turn over a log explaining all the redactions. That was part of the Epstein Transparency Act. It was in the law. They actually were supposed to provide this log 15 days after the January 30th release of the documents. And by all accounts, at least at the time of this recording, I don't think that's been provided yet. So it complicates the explanation of why certain things were redacted. And in terms of when we're going to get more answers, maybe from members of Congress, here's the problem. You had a California representative say that she went to the DOJ to look at the unredacted files. It's almost impossible. There are not enough computers. This is going to take some time. This is Representative Zoe Lofgren.
I did go over to the Department of Justice yesterday. I would note that 400 and all our 35 members are in the House, and there's 4 computers. So it would take many months to actually have the time. I only had a few hours. I think the transparency argument is really kind of a sham because it's not really possible.
Whoa. Did you have to wait to get a computer?
It is not possible to really go in.
Yeah, problem. I don't know if something will change there, but this could take quite some time. So I don't have an answer as to whether or not certain things are being hidden. I don't know if it's a mistake. I don't know if there's ongoing investigations. I don't know if this was a situation where they were kind of rushing things out, or there's something nefarious going on, or it's just a case of, look, we looked at everything and there's not much more there. I don't know. But we will see. I think these hearings are important. I think these Congress people going in and looking at the unredacted files is important. We're all looking for transparency here, and I know a lot of the survivors are looking for justice. And just to be clear, I'll say it one more time, just because someone's name is mentioned in the Epstein files in some capacity doesn't mean that they committed a crime, that they were implicated in a crime, or even had knowledge of a crime. But obviously you can see why there are a lot of questions about this. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for taking the time. As always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, we're up on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, I got my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. See you next time, everybody.